excited that there's so many people in this room. Honestly, I'm so glad that all of y'all are here. For real, for somebody who loves community and loves people, seeing more people makes me happy. So I'm so thankful that y'all are here. But we're going to take a second and just kind of talk about tonight is God's timing and what is happening in this society and things right now. So some of the things that you might have had questions, or some of the questions you might have had in this phase of life might be just like, what are you doing, God? And I think I have some questions to throw up. But what are you doing, God? Why are things happening the way they are happening right now? What is your plan? What is happening? Like, how many of you have had some of these kind of questions within the last couple of months? Yeah, same. Like, I can remember specifically sitting on my couch in my living room and going, okay, God, why? What's going on? Why? What's this? What are you doing, you know? I think we've all had that moment, especially just in the past couple of months of just trying to figure out what is your plan, God? Why are you doing this? Why is it happening right now? And those are okay questions to ask. I just want to say that. But my answer to you is probably not something you're going to want to hear, but I don't know. I don't know why COVID's happening right now. I don't know why we have all of this pandemic and racism and all of these things that are just coming to a point. Why is it happening right now? You got me. But I know somebody who does, and the only person that does. So I might not know, but God knows. He knows everything that's supposed to happen and the reason for it. And we're going to see that through these next few verses that I'm going to talk about. So first we're going to talk about Proverbs 3, and it's going to be verses 5 through 6. And it says, "Trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your path." So looking at this passage, trust in the Lord with all of your heart. That is everything inside of you. That your heart beats, bumps, whatever, bumps. But your heart pumps blood throughout your whole body. And it is like what provides life. If your heart doesn't pump blood, you ain't living. All right? That's what the pulse is for. So you have to trust the Lord with your whole being and not to lean on your own understanding. So I want to take that moment of looking at that own understanding. We sometimes try to think about, or I say we, I know, I don't want to assume y'all have, but you might can agree with me in a second. I know I've sat there and said, like, God, why does this happen? What are you doing here? What is this purpose for this? And I try to understand. There's a lot of things that I've tried to understand in my life, but sometimes you're just not going to understand. You just have to trust God and trust his plan. And so when we do, though, when we do let go and just trust God, so many good things. He will make a path for you that you could not ever have imagined for yourself. Proverbs 16, a couple chapters later, in verse 3, it says, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans." So whatever you're doing, whether that's soccer, whether that's football, whether that's going to college, whatever your plans are, if you commit to the Lord and you give him your life and you say, "Here I am, God, send me," and you are willing to do what he says, he's going to make your plans straight. He's going to help you. He's going to follow you. And you might not know why things are happening the way they are, but you'll see it eventually, hopefully. Not all the time. But the best example I have of this is the story of Esther. How many of you have heard of the book of Esther? It's not a big one. It's in the Old Testament, so it's not a really well-known one, I guess I should say. But the book of Esther is a cool story, very cool story. So I'm going to try to do my best to kind of show you and explain the story as cool and briefly as possible. So we're going to look at the book of Esther. So first we're going to look at the characters. So if we can slide over. So I have some fun characters. So we have King Xerxes. That's how you pronounce that. I had to look it up like 3 times and listen. Xerxes. Cool. We have Haman, who is the king's second in command. So how many of you kind of have an idea of how kings and like all that work? Like we've all watched like princess stories, but usually in old times there was a king, and a king had somebody kind of like, a president has a vice president. The second in command does a lot of work. They do a lot of the more official behind the scene things that makes the king look good, okay? So Haman is the king's second man. He is the one who does all of the paperwork, all of the things that the king doesn't really want to do, but he's like, okay, cool, we got Haman for that. All right, third character in the story is Mordecai. Mordecai is this pretty little queen's cousin, okay? So Mordecai is a big character in the story, but he is the cousin of Queen Esther, all right? So Esther's mom and dad passed away. She was an orphan, and cousin Mordecai took Esther in to be like the parent and took him in as his own. So these are our characters, okay? So King Xerxes had this issue with his previous wife. She didn't want to come to him, and he was pretty mad about it, okay? So he was like, you know what? I'm finding a new queen. So he puts out this whole beauty pageant thing where he's like, all right, I need to find me a new lady, a new queen, somebody that looks good, who will listen to me when I say come here, because that's kind of the time frame that they're in. And so they hold this big pageant, and it includes Queen Esther. So Queen Esther is going in. She had to, as a requirement. So she went into the king, and they had this long process of what they did, like preparing the girls for the queen. It took a whole year, actually. It's in the Bible. You should read this story. You're going to want to after I get done. But Queen Esther goes in, and the king instantly is like, that's my lady. That's who I want. And so he takes Esther and makes her his queen. So how does that relate? All right, so Queen Esther is actually not from King Xerxes' area, his tribe. She is a Jew. She came in as a immigrant, I guess, in a way, and she kept that from the king though, because Mordecai had asked her to. He's like, don't tell the king that you're a Jew. Keep that to us. That's our secret. Well, backing over here to Haman. Haman, second in command, gets honored one day. And the king is like giving him the robes, making him feel special. And Haman asked for everybody to bow down to him and make him feel special. Well, Mordecai said no, he didn't want to. And that made Haman so mad. He was furious. So rather than, just like going and punching Mordecai and saying, you suck, he instead decided to kill all of his people. So he put a whole decree out to kill every single Jew that was living in this whole area. And so, not knowing that Queen Esther was a Jew, all of this issue is kind of bubbling up, okay? So it's all because Haman wanted Mordecai to bow down, and Mordecai didn't want to. So, how does this relate to God's plan, and how does that correspond to what we're talking about? Queen Esther is still really close with Mordecai, and Mordecai tells her all of the things that are going on and how all of the Jews and all of their people are about to be killed because of Haman. So Queen Esther takes over, and she does what is really scary in this time. She had to go to the king without permission. So if you go to the king without permission, the king has an option. As you see, he's a little scepter in his hand. He has the option. If he holds it out to you, then he's okay with you coming. But if he doesn't, then you're in trouble. Like, you're not supposed to go to the king without him calling to you. So Queen Esther has to go to the king, and she's got to have this moment of whether he's going to accept her or not. Well, thankfully, he does. Long story short, they find out that all of this is happening between Mordecai and Haman. And in the end, Mordecai becomes the second in command, and Haman ends up dying because of the things that he did, because he was trying to kill the Jews and everything. So, all of that to say, when you look through the whole story of Esther and how courageous she was, But the thing is, like, she didn't just have to go to the king once and say, yo, honey, this guy over here, he's trying to kill all my people. That's not how it happened. She had a banquet that she had to do. Not only one, but she did 2 banquets. And not only that, she had to go back a 3rd time to the king without his permission and say, hey, thank you for, like, fixing Haman being here, but they're still trying to kill my people. How do we fix this? So there was multiple times in Esther's life when she didn't know what things were like, why she was in the situation she was in. Why did she get picked by King Xerxes to be his wife? Why was her people chosen to die? Why was Haman in control? Like, all of these things of, like, you could sit there and ask why. But in the end, everything worked out because God had taken and chosen Queen Esther, a Jew of her people, to be the wife, the queen for the king. And so all of that to say is God orchestrated and weaved in all of these little things in this story to get to a point where in the end you can see, oh, that's what you were doing, God. That's what you meant when you put me through that situation. But sometimes when we get into situations and we have problems arise, we get stuck in our head and we're like, we can't see the big picture. How many of y'all have done a puzzle before? Yeah, like an actual puzzle, not one on your screen. Like, you know, the pieces that fall and you have to fall under the couch and pull it out, those things. Yeah, same. I've lost a couple of pieces, so I'm still bitter. But a picture, okay? Think of your puzzle, okay? When you look at a single piece, could you tell me what that whole puzzle is going to be? No. I honestly, I've done this before with a group. I've taken a little piece of a puzzle and I said, what do you think that is? Tell me what you think this picture is. And I loved hearing their response. They'd look at it, they'd like turn it sideways and be like, oh, I think it looks blue, maybe it's an ocean. And I'm like, I don't know, what is it? And they're like, I think it might be like a boat. I'm like, I don't know. And so you can't tell. You physically, it's impossible for you to tell what a whole picture is based off of a single piece in a puzzle. It takes the whole puzzle to see the big picture. And that's kind of where we're at right now. God's timing and his piecing of things together, it doesn't make sense all the time because we can only see a little piece of it. But God can see everything and he knows everything. He knows why things happen in the time frame that it's happening. And so his plan is so much better and bigger because he can see it all. And so my one thing that I want you to get from tonight is God has a plan. He has a plan for what we're going through right now. He has a plan and a reason why your school is delayed or why you have no sports this year or why these things, like, they all might not be something we want to go through at this time. But one day, we're going to look back and we're going to say, oh, okay, God, that makes sense. I get that. Because God has a plan. He has a plan for what you're going through, and he has a plan for why we're in the situations that we're in. And I just want to give you that encouragement. So trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make straight your path. Trust in his word. Trust in his life and the things that he says in his word. His promises are always going to stay true. If you look at the Bible, everything that God promises is coming true or has come true. So his promises are going to stay consistent. So I'm telling you, I just want you to know that everything's going to be okay because God's plan is perfect. And it might suck sometimes, but it's perfect. Like it takes time to see, I guess is what I'm getting at. But I'm going to pray, and then we're going to separate into our small groups, and we'll get going from there. So, God, I just want to thank you so much for the way and the things that you're putting us through right now, God. It says in your word that the trials and tribulations to count it a joy when we go through them, God. I pray that you would just help us to trust and rely in your plans because we know that you are perfect, and the things that you put us through for a reason. We don't know that reason all the time, and we might never know, but you have a purpose for that, God, and I pray that we just trust that. Trust in your timing, trust in the things that you are bringing towards us and for us, God. I pray that you just be with every single person in this room, the things that they're going through, the circumstances that they're in. God, you know them, and you care about them, and you love them, and I want them to know that, God. I pray that you just be with our small groups as we're about to break up. I pray that the conversations are fruitful, and that we just go from this day and go from this moment and just want to continually seek after you, God. We praise you and we thank you and we love you. In your name, amen.